One of the reasons you reached out to me, actually, in our original email, which I thought was fun, was you mentioned how, as a lawyer, some of the recommendations that we gave in the past and maybe still do, as well as maybe some other advice that you've seen in the privacy space, legally are kind of iffy. And so, do you have some examples or some things that really spoke to you as, wow, as a lawyer, I don't know if I could recommend that to a client, or I guess what's the nuance to this a little bit, if you can kind of dive into it?
Yeah, so there's a lot of good advice out there. A lot of it comes from your channel. I've read Michael Basil's book and found those to be interesting as well. Um, and a lot of it's a gray area. A lot of it is sort of like it depends. It depends what you're using some of these tools for, whether or not you get into an iffy area. So, for instance, one of the common strategies across the board that you'll see is use pseudonyms, use falsified billing information, use privacy.com credit cards, use my pseudo VoIP numbers, use alias emails. Basically, give as little real information as you can, as often as you can. And generally speaking, that's fine. It was a concern of mine at the outset. Am I in sort of a gray area? Is this something that, like CEOs and executives could adopt, or are they going to have issues at work if they're doing these kinds of things? And for the most part, I think it's fine. I think there are certain areas where that either you can't use a pseudonym or you shouldn't. So one that comes to mind is banking. When you open a bank account at a brick and mortar bank, um, ordinarily they give you the option of entering a mailing address as well as a physical address. And you can give them pretty much any mailing address you want if you want to get paper statements. You can use a virtual mailbox. You can send your statements across the country. But when you are giving them a physical address, um, you would be pushing it a little bit to give them an address that you don't reside at. Similarly, anything government related, if you're dealing with the IRS or the Social Security Administration or the passport agency, um, giving them any address other than your real address, you could find yourself in some issues. Um, I endorse and personally use a virtual mailbox as often as I can. Um, I think that if you were to use your virtual mailbox address and it's in a different state and you were to obtain a driver's license in a different state, you could run into some issues there. Maybe fraud. For one, you can have some insurance issues about where your car is actually housed or garaged, as the case may be. And if you are doing it to um, get a better insurance rate in a different state, that's probably fraud. Um, I think if you use an address that you don't reside in the state for voter registration, that could be voter fraud. If you are entering into contracts and using an address or better yet, a different name that's not yours, you probably committing fraud on the person that you're entering into a contract with. If you're buying insurance, whether it's health insurance or auto insurance or life insurance, and you're not giving real information, you're probably committing fraud, and it may result in denial of claims or some sort of criminal action. So those are some of the ones that come to mind. And then again, it's just how you're using tools. VPNs are great; they're perfectly legit. But there are people that use them for things like downloading stuff illegally, and that's not a kosher use of it. And then Signal, as I mentioned, is something that I use on a daily basis. One of the main reasons is the ephemeral nature of the communications. They can delete on a timer. And if you're using that just across the board and it's sort of your routine, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But if you're using it purposefully for the purpose of destroying evidence and you're in the middle of litigation and you're doing it for that purpose, I think you run into an issue with your spoliation of evidence and you're not preserving evidence, so you could end up in some hot water there.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this Techlore clip. This is actually a highlight from our main channel, Techlore, where we talk about digital rights, privacy, security, and how you can have a better relationship with technology. So if you want the full-length experience, definitely check out our main channel, Techlore. We'll leave a link somewhere on the screen, wherever our editor puts it, and you can probably check it down in the description as well.